When 19-year-old Tommy Rodriguez laughed at a customer's beat-up shoes at Milano's restaurant, he had no idea those worn sneakers belonged to Michael Jordan. The basketball legend was sitting quietly at table 12, eating pasta in simple clothes, when Tommy made his cruel comment about the cheap shoes. Seconds later, the entire room went silent. Other customers recognized the man Tommy had just insulted, and whispers spread like wildfire. Tommy's face went white as he realized what he'd done. He had mocked the greatest basketball player of all time. But here's what Tommy didn't know. Michael Jordan hadn't come to Milano's by accident that night. He was there specifically to find Tommy, carrying with him a life-changing opportunity worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The young waiter's little brother had been telling Michael stories about his hard-working big brother for weeks. Now Tommy's moment of cruelty threatened to destroy the chance of a lifetime before he even knew it existed. Would Michael Jordan still offer Tommy the opportunity after being insulted? And what was the deeper reason behind Michael's visit that would shock Tommy to his core? Before we dive into this incredible true story of second chances and hidden kindness, make sure to hit that like button and comment below where you're watching from. Tommy Rodriguez pressed his face against the big glass window of Milano's restaurant. Inside, everything sparkled like a jewelry store. Crystal glasses caught the light from fancy chandeliers. White tablecloths looked perfect, without a single wrinkle. Rich people in expensive suits laughed and ate food that cost more than Tommy's family spent on groceries in a week. "You can do this," Tommy whispered to himself. His breath made a small fog on the glass. At 19 years old, Tommy was the youngest waiter Milano's had ever hired. Today was only his third day on the job. His hands shook as he straightened his black bow tie for the 100th time. The uniform felt strange on his skinny frame. The white shirt was crisp and clean, but it belonged to the restaurant. Tommy would have to give it back when his shift ended. His black pants were his own, the nicest ones he owned. But his shoes, Tommy looked down and sighed. His sneakers had holes near the toes. Duct tape held the left sole together. At least they're black, he told himself. From far away, maybe no one would notice. Tommy walked through the back entrance of Milano's. The kitchen buzzed with activity. Chefs in tall white hats chopped vegetables with lightning speed. Steam rose from huge pots. The air smelled like garlic and expensive wine. "Rodriguez." Mr. Peterson's voice cut through the noise. The manager was a tall, thin man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He always looked like he was about to fire someone. "Yes, sir." Tommy hurried over. "Table assignments." Mr. Peterson handed Tommy a small notepad. "You have sections 4 and 5 tonight. These are important customers, Rodriguez. Don't mess this up." Tommy's stomach twisted. Section 4 had the tables near the window where all the richest people liked to sit. Section 5 was by the piano, where couples went on expensive dates. "I won't let you down, Mr. Peters. See that you don't." "And Rodriguez?" The manager looked down at Tommy's feet. "Do something about those shoes. This is Milano's, not McDonald's." Tommy's face burned red. "Yes, sir. I'll fix it." But how could he fix it? Good shoes cost money. Tommy didn't have. Every dollar he earned went to his family. His parents both worked 2 jobs, but it was never enough. His little brother Marcus needed new basketball shoes. His sister Elena was starting high school and needed supplies. Tommy's college fund sat in a jar under his bed. After 3 months of saving, it held exactly $247. Not enough for 1 semester, let alone 4 years. The dining room at Milano's looked even fancier from inside. Soft jazz music played from speakers hidden in the walls. Waiters glided between tables like dancers, carrying silver trays without making a sound. Everyone moved with perfect grace. Tommy felt like a clumsy giant. His first 2 days, He'd dropped a fork, spilled water on a tablecloth, and walked into a door. The other waiters whispered about him when they thought he couldn't hear. "New kid won't last a week," said James, the head waiter. James had worked at Milano's for 15 years. His uniform always looked perfect. His shoes shined like mirrors. Tommy wanted to prove them all wrong. He needed this job. Milano's paid twice what other restaurants offered. If he could just survive his first month, maybe he could start saving real money for college. The dinner rush began at 6 o'clock. Rich couples filled the tables. Men wore suits that probably cost more than Tommy's dad made in a month. Women had jewelry that sparkled under the lights. Everyone looked comfortable, like they belonged in a place this fancy. Tommy served his first table, an older couple celebrating their anniversary. The woman wore a dress that looked like it came from a magazine. The man ordered wine that cost $80 a bottle. "More bread, please," the woman asked sweetly. Tommy's hands trembled as he refilled their bread basket. "Don't drop anything," he told himself. "Just don't drop anything." At 7:30, the hostess seated a new customer in Tommy's section. Tommy was in the kitchen when it happened, so he didn't see the man arrive. But when he walked back into the dining room, something felt different. Other customers kept glancing toward table 12. Some pointed and whispered. A woman at table 10 had her phone out, trying to take a picture without being obvious. Table 12 sat in the corner, away from the main dining area. It was Milano's quietest spot, perfect for someone who didn't want attention. Tommy grabbed his notepad and walked over. As he got closer, he could see the customer more clearly. The man was tall, really tall. Even sitting down, he looked like he could touch the ceiling. He wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans. Nothing fancy or expensive looking. The man was studying the menu when Tommy approached. He had strong hands and broad shoulders. His presence seemed to fill the space around him, even though he sat quietly. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Milano's," Tommy said, trying to sound confident. "My name is Tommy, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." The customer looked up and smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile that made Tommy feel less nervous. "Evening, Tommy. Nice to meet you." The man's voice was deep and calm. Something about it seemed familiar, but Tommy couldn't place it. Maybe he'd heard it on TV or radio. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" Tommy asked. "Just water, please. And I think I'm ready to order if that's okay." Most customers at Milano's took forever to decide. They asked about every ingredient, wanted to know how everything was prepared. This man seemed different, more down to earth. "Of course, sir. What can I get for you?" "I'll have the spaghetti with marinara sauce. Keep it simple." Tommy wrote it down, surprised. Spaghetti was one of the cheapest items on Milano's menu. Most customers ordered the lobster or the expensive steaks. "Excellent choice, sir. I'll get that water right out to you." As Tommy turned to walk away, he glanced down at the customer's feet. The man wore sneakers, old ones that had seen better days. The white leather was scuffed and yellowed. One of the laces was frayed. They looked like shoes someone might wear to play basketball in a park, not eat at the fanciest restaurant in Chicago. Tommy paused for a moment, studying the shoes. They really were beat up, way more worn than his own sneakers, even with the duct tape. A strange thought popped into Tommy's head. What was someone wearing shoes like that doing in a place like this? Milano's had a dress code. Men were supposed to wear dress shoes, not old sneakers. Tommy shook his head and walked toward the kitchen. It wasn't his business what customers wore. Mr. Peterson always said the customer was always right, no matter what. But as he filled the water glass, Tommy couldn't stop thinking about those shoes. They looked so out of place in Milano's elegant dining room. Almost as out of place as Tommy felt in his own patched-up sneakers. Maybe that was why the other customers kept staring. Maybe they were all wondering the same thing. Tommy was wondering. Tommy carried the water back to table 12, trying not to let his thoughts show on his face. The customer was looking out the window now, watching people walk by on the busy street. "Here's your water, sir," Tommy said, setting the glass down carefully. "Thank you, Tommy." Again, that familiar voice. And when the man looked up, Tommy felt like he should know that face. But from where? The customer had kind eyes and a strong jaw. He looked like he might be an athlete, someone who stayed in good shape. But Tommy still couldn't place him. "Your spaghetti should be ready in about 15 minutes, Tommy said. "No rush, I'm enjoying the atmosphere." Tommy nodded and started to walk away. But once again, his eyes drifted down to those old beaten-up sneakers. They really did look cheap. Cheaper than anything else in the entire restaurant. The contrast was so strange it was almost funny. Tommy walked back toward the kitchen, but he couldn't shake the image of those old sneakers. In a restaurant where everything cost a fortune, where people wore clothes worth thousands of dollars, this customer sat in shoes that looked like they came from a thrift store. A small laugh escaped Tommy's throat before he could stop it. The sound was quiet, barely more than a breath. But in the hushed elegance of Milana's dining room, it seemed to echo. A few customers at nearby tables glanced over. Tommy's face burned red. He pressed his lips together, trying to swallow the laughter that wanted to bubble up again. What was wrong with him? He was supposed to be professional, but the stress of the past few days crashed over him all at once. 3 days of feeling small and out of place. 3 days of other waiters looking down on him. 3 days of serving people who spent more on one meal than his family had for groceries all month. And now here was someone who looked even more out of place than Tommy felt. Tommy delivered orders to his other tables, but his mind kept drifting back to table 12. The tall customer sat quietly, sipping his water and looking out the window. He seemed peaceful, unbothered by the whispers and stares from other diners. Maybe that was what bothered Tommy most. The man didn't seem embarrassed by his appearance. He didn't try to hide his feet under the table or apologize for not dressing properly. He just sat there, calm and confident, like he belonged. Tommy wished he could feel that way. Instead, he spent every moment at Milano's worried that someone would notice his taped-up shoes or his too big uniform or the way his hands shook when he carried expensive plates. When the kitchen bell rang, Tommy knew the spaghetti was ready. He picked up the white ceramic bowl, making sure to hold it steady. The pasta looked perfect. Red marinara sauce with fresh basil leaves on top, exactly how Milano's always served it. Tommy walked carefully across the dining room. The customer was still looking out the window when Tommy approached table 12. "Here's your spaghetti, sir," Tommy said, setting the bowl down gently. "Smells wonderful, thank you, Tommy." There was that voice again. Warm and polite, with a hint of something Tommy almost recognized but couldn't quite place. The customer picked up his fork and took a bite, his face lit up with genuine pleasure. "This is excellent. My compliments to the chef." Tommy nodded, pleased that his customer was happy. "Is there anything else I can get for you? Parmesan cheese? Black pepper? I'm all set, thanks." Tommy started to walk away, but something made him stop. Maybe it was the stress. Maybe it was 3 days of feeling like he didn't belong. Maybe it was seeing all the rich customers in their perfect clothes while he worried about his own appearance. Or maybe it was the way this customer seemed so comfortable while Tommy felt like a fraud. Whatever the reason, Tommy found himself looking down at those beat-up sneakers again. They really were in terrible condition. The rubber soles were worn smooth. Dirt stains covered the white leather. One shoe had a small tear near the toe. Before Tommy could stop himself, a small giggle slipped out. The customer looked up from his pasta, confused. "Is something wrong?" Tommy's heart pounded. He should apologize. He should walk away. He should pretend nothing happened. Instead, words tumbled out of his mouth. "Sorry, sir, it's just..." Tommy pointed down at the man's feet. "Your shoes. They look pretty cheap for a place like this." The moment the words left Tommy's lips, he wanted to grab them back. His face went white, then red, then white again. What had he just done? The customer slowly set down his fork. He looked down at his shoes, then back up at Tommy. The kind expression on his face didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "I see," the man said quietly. Around them, the restaurant seemed to grow quieter. Conversations at nearby tables stopped mid-sentence. A woman at table 10 gasped softly. A businessman at the bar turned to Tommy felt like the whole world was watching him. His hands began to tremble. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean..." "It's okay, son." The customer's voice remained calm, but there was something different in it now. Something sad. "We all make mistakes." But Tommy could see it wasn't okay. He could see the hurt that flashed across the man's face before he controlled it. He could see the way the customer's shoulders sagged slightly, like someone had just let the air out of him. Tommy wanted to explain. He wanted to say that he felt scared and small and out of place too. He wanted to say that seeing someone else who didn't fit in had made him feel less alone, and then immediately made him feel guilty for thinking that. But the words wouldn't come. They stuck in his throat like paste. "Your food is getting cold, sir," Tommy managed to whisper. The customer looked at his pasta like he'd forgotten it was there. "Right, of course." He picked up his fork again, but Tommy noticed he didn't take another bite. He just moved the spaghetti around the bowl, making patterns in the red sauce. Tommy stood there for another moment, frozen. Every instinct told him to apologize again, to try to make it better somehow. But another part of him, the part that was tired of feeling small, wanted to defend what he'd said. After all, the man really was wearing cheap shoes in an expensive restaurant. Tommy had just pointed out the obvious, hadn't he? I'll check on you in a few minutes," Tommy said finally. "Thank you, Tommy." The customer's voice was still polite, but the warmth was gone. Tommy walked away on unsteady legs. Behind him, he could hear the whispers starting up again. Customers leaned across their tables to talk in hushed, excited voices. In the kitchen, Tommy leaned against the steel counter and tried to catch his breath. His whole body was shaking now. What was wrong with him? He'd insulted a customer. At Milano's, that was practically a crime. Mr. Peterson would fire him on the spot if he found out. But worse than losing his job was the look in the customer's eyes. Tommy had hurt someone's feelings, and for what? To make himself feel better for 2 seconds. "You okay, kid?" asked Maria, one of the line cooks. She was a small woman with kind eyes who'd been nice to Tommy since his first day. "I think I just made a big mistake," Tommy said. "What kind of mistake?" Tommy opened his mouth to explain, but the kitchen door swung open. James, the head waiter, rushed in with wide eyes. "Did you see who's at table 12? James asked the room in general. "Some guy eating spaghetti," Tommy said. "Why?" James stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Some guy? Tommy, that... Rodriguez." Mr. Peterson's voice cut through the kitchen like a knife. "Get out here, now." Tommy's blood turned to ice water. Someone had told the manager what happened. He was about to get fired, and his family would never forgive him. He walked back into the dining room with legs that felt like rubber. Mr. Peterson stood near the hostess station, his face red with anger. But as Tommy crossed the restaurant, he noticed something strange. More customers were staring at table 12 now. A lot more. Some had their phones out trying to take pictures without being obvious. The woman at table 10 was practically bouncing in her seat with excitement. The businessman at the bar was typing frantically on his phone. What was going on? Tommy reached Mr. Peterson, who grabbed his arm and pulled him aside. "Do you have any idea who that is?" the manager hissed in Tommy's ear. "No, sir, just a customer who ordered spaghetti." Mr. Peterson's eyes went even wider. "Tommy, that's Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan. The greatest basketball player who ever lived." Tommy's world tilted sideways. Michael Jordan. The name hit him like a punch to the stomach. No wonder the voice sounded familiar. No wonder other customers kept staring. No wonder everyone was taking pictures. Tommy had just insulted Michael Jordan. He had laughed at Michael Jordan's shoes. The shoes of the man who'd made millions of dollars playing basketball. The man who had his own shoe company. The man whose sneakers were probably worth more than Tommy would make in his entire life. Tommy gripped the wall to keep from falling over. His vision went blurry around the edges. "I didn't know," Tommy whispered. "I had no idea." "Well, you better figure out how to fix this," Mr. Peterson snarled, "and fast. Before he decides to never come back here again. Before he tells the whole world how Milano's treats its customers." Tommy looked across the dining room at table 12. Michael Jordan sat there quietly, still moving his pasta around his plate without eating it. He looked smaller somehow, less imposing than before. But Tommy knew that was impossible. Michael Jordan hadn't gotten smaller. Tommy had just realized how huge his mistake really was. His legs felt like they might give out. Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan. The man every kid in America wanted to be like. The legend who'd won 6 championships and made basketball look like magic. And Tommy had laughed at his shoes. "Fix this," Mr. Peterson hissed again. "Whatever it takes." Tommy nodded weakly, but he had no idea how to fix something this big. What do you say to someone you've insulted, especially when that someone could buy the entire restaurant with his lunch money? Tommy forced himself to walk back toward his other tables. He needed to look normal, act normal, but inside, his heart hammered like a drum. At table 8, an elderly couple needed more coffee. Tommy's hands shook so badly, he nearly dropped the pot. "Are you feeling all right, dear?" the woman asked kindly. "Yes, ma'am, just a long day." But it wasn't true. Tommy felt sick to his stomach. Every few seconds, his eyes drifted back to table 12, where Michael Jordan sat alone. The basketball legend had stopped pretending to eat. His pasta sat cold and untouched. He stared out the window with a distant look in his eyes, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. Around the restaurant, the buzz of excitement was growing. Word was spreading from table to table in hushed whispers. "That's really him. Michael Jordan is here. Should we ask for an autograph?" The woman at table 10 kept glancing over and whispering excitedly to her husband. "I can't believe it. My son is going to flip when I tell him." A family with teenage boys at table 6 had noticed too. The kids kept trying to get a better look without being obvious. Their father pulled out his phone and pretended to check messages while angling it toward Michael's table. But nobody approached. Milano's wasn't the kind of place where people bothered celebrities. The customers here were used to seeing famous people. They knew how to be cool about it. Except Tommy hadn't been cool about it. Tommy had been the opposite of cool. Near the bar, a businessman in an expensive suit was typing on his phone with quick, excited fingers. Probably posting on social media, Tommy realized. By tomorrow, the whole world might know that Michael Jordan ate at Milano's. Would they also know that a dumb waiter had insulted him? Tommy tried to focus on his other customers, but his mind kept spinning. Michael Jordan had been coming to Milano's for years, according to other waiters. He was a regular customer who never caused trouble, never demanded special treatment. And now Tommy had probably ruined that forever. What if Michael never came back? What if he told other celebrities not to come here? What if Milano's lost business because of Tommy's stupid comment? Tommy's college fund flashed through his mind. The 24 centuanes in the jar under his bed. If he lost this job, how long would it take to save that much again? How long before he could afford to even think about school? Table 12 needs attention, James, the head waiter, appeared beside Tommy like a ghost. His voice was sharp with worry. I know. I'm working up the courage. Work faster. He hasn't touched his food in 10 minutes. Tommy looked over again. Michael sat perfectly still, his hands folded on the table. He looked calm, but Tommy could see the tension in his shoulders, the hurt in his posture. This wasn't just about embarrassment. Tommy had genuinely hurt someone's feelings. Someone who'd probably dealt with enough judgment and criticism for one lifetime. I have to apologize, Tommy said, more to himself than to James. Yes, you do. And it better be the best apology in history. Tommy took a deep breath and walked across the dining room. Each step felt like it took forever. Other customers watched from the corners of their eyes. The whole restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Michael Jordan looked up as Tommy approached. His expression was neutral, but his eyes were guarded now. The warmth from earlier was completely gone. Is everything all right with your meal, sir? Tommy asked. His voice came out as barely more than a whisper. The food is fine, Tommy. The way Michael said his name, patient but distant, made Tommy's chest ache. This man remembered his name even after being insulted by him. Sir, I need to apologize. What I said about your shoes was completely wrong. I had no right to judge you or comment on your appearance. Michael nodded slowly. I appreciate that, but his voice was still flat. Professional, like he was talking to a stranger instead of the young man who'd served him dinner. I don't have any excuse for what I said, Tommy continued. I was feeling insecure about my own appearance, and I took it out on you. That was cruel and unprofessional. For the first time since the incident, Michael's expression softened slightly. We all have insecurities, Tommy, but how we handle them says something about our character. The words hit Tommy like a gentle slap. Not angry or mean, just honest. And somehow that made them hurt more. I'm still learning about character, I guess, Tommy said quietly. Michael studied his face for a long moment. Around them, the restaurant continued its quiet dinner service, but Tommy felt like he and Michael were alone in a bubble. How old are you, son? 19, sir. First job? Tommy nodded. I'm trying to save money for college. Something flickered in Michael's eyes, not quite warmth, but something less cold than before. That's admirable. Education is important. Michael paused. What do you want to study? Business. I want to learn how to run a company someday. Help my family. Michael picked up his water glass and took a slow sip. Tommy waited, not sure if he should keep talking or walk away. Tommy, can I give you some advice? Yes, sir, please. Success isn't about having the most expensive things or looking better than other people. Real success is about lifting others up, not putting them down. Tommy felt tears starting to form behind his eyes. He blinked them back quickly. I understand, sir. And I promise, nothing like this will ever happen again. Michael nodded. I believe you mean that, but his voice still carried that distance. That wall that hadn't been there before Tommy's comment. Would you like me to have the kitchen prepare you a fresh meal? Tommy offered desperately. This one must be cold by now. That's not necessary. I should probably head home anyway. No. Tommy's heart sank. Michael was leaving because of what had happened. Because Tommy had made him uncomfortable in a place where he used to feel welcome. Sir, please don't leave because of me. Milano's is your restaurant too. You belong here more than I do. Michael looked surprised by the comment. For a moment, some of the coldness left his eyes. That's a very mature thing to say, Tommy. It's true. I'm just a kid who doesn't know anything yet. You're Michael Jordan. A tiny smile appeared at the corner of Michael's mouth. I'm just a person, Tommy. Same as you. But that wasn't true. And they both knew it. Michael Jordan wasn't just a person. He was a legend. An icon. Someone who'd achieved things Tommy could only dream about. And Tommy had treated him like he was nobody. The weight of that realization settled over Tommy like a heavy blanket. This wasn't just about insulting a customer. This was about failing to recognize greatness when it sat right in front of him. How many other people had Tommy overlooked or judged without knowing their true worth? Michael started to stand up, reaching for his wallet. Tommy's time was running out. "Mr. Jordan, wait. Please." Michael paused, his hand on the back of his chair. He looked at Tommy with patient eyes, but Tommy could see he was ready to leave. "Yes, Tommy." Tommy's mouth opened and closed like a fish. What could he possibly say that would make this better? What words existed that could undo his terrible mistake? Before Tommy could find his voice, Mrs. Chen from table 3 stood up. She was a small, elderly woman who came to Milano's every Friday night with her husband. Tommy had served her before. She was always polite and tipped well. But now she walked straight toward Michael's table, clutching her purse nervously. "Excuse me," she said in a soft voice. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but are you really Michael Jordan?" The restaurant grew even quieter. Every conversation stopped. Even the kitchen noise seemed to fade away. Everyone waited for the answer. Michael looked at Mrs. Chen and smiled. It was the first genuine smile Tommy had seen from him since the shoe comment. "Yes, ma'am, I am." The words hit Tommy like a sledgehammer. Hearing Michael actually say it out loud made it real in a way that somehow it hadn't been before. Mrs. Chen's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh my goodness. My grandson Bobby is your biggest fan. He plays basketball at his school and practices your fadeaway shot every day in his backyard." "That's wonderful," Michael said, standing up to his full height. "How old is Bobby?" 12. He's been playing since he was 8. His dream is to play in high school, maybe even college. Michael's smile grew wider. "Tell Bobby to keep practicing and never give up on his dreams. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard." Mrs. Chen fumbled in her purse and pulled out a napkin. "Would it be possible? Could I get your autograph for him? He would absolutely lose his mind." "Of course." Michael took a pen from his jacket pocket. "What's Bobby's full name?" "Robert Chen. But everyone calls him Bobby." Michael wrote carefully on the napkin, taking his time. Tommy watched, amazed at how patient and kind he was being. No trace of the hurt from earlier showed in his face or voice. "There you go," Michael said, handing the napkin back. "Tell Bobby that Michael Jordan believes in him." Mrs. Chen's eyes filled with happy tears. "Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to him, to our whole family." "It's my pleasure, ma'am." Mrs. Chen hurried back to her table, where her husband was grinning from ear to ear. Other customers watched with envious smiles, but Tommy felt sick. Here was Michael Jordan, being incredibly gracious to a fan, just minutes after Tommy had been cruel to him. The contrast made Tommy's behavior look even worse. As soon as Mrs. Chen sat down, other customers started looking at each other. Tommy could see the question in their eyes. "Should we go over to—" A middle-aged man from table 7 approached next. "Mr. Jordan, I don't mean to interrupt your dinner, but I had to say thank you." "Thank you for what?" "My son was in a car accident 5 years ago. He was in a wheelchair for 8 months. The doctors weren't sure he'd ever walk again." The man's voice got thick with emotion. "But he kept watching videos of your games. Said if Michael Jordan never gave up, neither would he." Michael's expression grew serious. "How is he now?" "He runs track at his high school. Just broke the school record in the mile."
"That's incredible."
"Your son sounds like a champion." "He is. That you were part of what inspired him to keep fighting." Michael shook the man's hand firmly. "Tell him I'm proud of him. It takes real courage to come back from something like that." Tommy watched this exchange with growing amazement and growing shame. This was Michael Jordan, a man who inspired kids to overcome impossible obstacles, a man who gave hope to families in their darkest moment. And Tommy had laughed at his shoes. More customers began to approach. A teenage boy wanted a picture. A woman thanked Michael for donating money to her daughter's school. An older man shared a story about meeting Michael at a charity event years ago. With each interaction, Michael was patient, kind, and genuinely interested in their stories. He remembered details from previous conversations. He asked follow-up questions about people's families and dreams. This wasn't just a celebrity being polite to fans. This was someone who truly cared about other people. Tommy stood frozen by the kitchen door, watching it all unfold. The contrast between Michael's kindness to these strangers and the hurt Tommy had caused him was overwhelming. Mr. Peterson appeared beside Tommy, looking nervous. "This is good for business," he whispered, "but we need to make sure Mr. Jordan feels comfortable. We can't have him upset about what happened." "I know," Tommy said quietly. "Do you? Because if he complains to the press about how he was treated here, Milano's reputation could be ruined. We could all lose our jobs." Tommy's stomach dropped even further. He hadn't just hurt one person's feelings. He'd put everyone's livelihood at risk. After about 10 minutes, the crowd around Michael's table began to thin. People returned to their meals, glowing with happiness at meeting their hero. Michael sat back down, but Tommy noticed he didn't touch his cold pasta. Instead, he pulled out his phone and started typing. Tommy's blood turned to ice. Was Michael posting about what happened? Was he telling his millions of followers about the rude waiter at Milano's? Tommy imagined the headlines: "Michael Jordan insulted at Chicago restaurant." His name would be in the story, his family would see it, his friends. But worse than the embarrassment was knowing he'd hurt someone who clearly spent his life trying to lift others up. James appeared at Tommy's elbow again. "You need to go back over there now. What if he's posting about me on social media? Then you better hope your apology is good enough to change his mind." Tommy took a shaky breath and walked back to table 12. Michael looked up from his phone as Tommy approached. "Mr. Jordan." "Tommy, can I ask you something?" Michael's voice was calm but serious. "Yes, sir. Do you know why I come to this restaurant?" Tommy shook his head, afraid to guess. "It's not for the food, though the food is excellent. It's not because it's fancy or exclusive." Michael put his phone down and looked directly at Tommy. "I come here because of the memories. This place reminds me of somewhere special from when I was young. Somewhere my mother took me for my birthday when we didn't have much money." Tommy felt his throat tighten. "We dressed up in our best clothes, which weren't very fancy. We saved for weeks to afford one dinner here. I felt so out of place, so aware that we didn't belong." Michael's voice grew softer, but the waiter that night made us feel welcome. He saw past our cheap clothes and old shoes. He treated us with dignity and respect. The words hit Tommy like physical blows. Michael's story was so similar to Tommy's own life, but with one crucial difference. That long ago waiter had been kind. Tommy had been cruel. "Mr. Jordan." Michael held up his hand gently. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel worse, Tommy. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something important." Tommy waited, barely breathing. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of what they're wearing or how much money they have. You never know who someone really is, or what they've been through, or what they might become. Michael stood up again, reaching for his wallet. But more importantly, it doesn't matter who they are. What matters is who you are. The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. Tommy felt them settle deep in his chest, heavy and true. Michael pulled a $20 bill from his wallet and placed it on the table. The pasta had cost $12. He was leaving a tip bigger than the meal itself for Tommy, the waiter who had insulted him. "Mr. Jordan, please don't go," Tommy said, his voice cracking. "Not like this. Michael paused, his hand still on the money. Like what, Tommy? With me feeling like this? With you thinking I'm a terrible person? I don't think you're a terrible person. The kindness in Michael's voice made everything worse. Tommy would have felt better if Michael had been angry, if he'd yelled or demanded to speak to the manager. Instead, Michael was being gracious, patient, forgiving, everything Tommy hadn't been. But I am terrible, Tommy whispered. What kind of person laughs at someone's shoes? What kind of person judges people they don't even know? Michael studied Tommy's face carefully. The restaurant continued its quiet dinner service around them, but Tommy felt like they were the only two people in the world. How about you tell me? Michael said softly. What kind of person are you, Tommy? The question hit Tommy like a punch. He wanted to give a quick answer, to defend himself or make excuses. But looking into Michael Jordan's eyes, he knew he had to tell the truth. I don't know, Tommy admitted. I thought I knew. But tonight I found out I can be cruel when I'm scared, mean when I feel small. Michael nodded slowly. That's honest. What else? Tommy thought about it. Really thought about it. I work hard. I'm trying to help my family. I want to go to college and learn how to run a business someday. Tommy paused. But I guess none of that matters if I treat people badly. Why do you want to run a business? Michael asked. The question surprised Tommy. To help people, I think. To create jobs. To give other people chances like I hope someone will give. And how can you help people if you judge them before you know them? Tommy felt tears starting again. He blinked them back, but one escaped and rolled down his cheek. I can't. That's the problem. I messed up everything I claimed to believe in. Michael's expression softened even more. Tommy, can I tell you something? Tommy nodded, not trusting his voice. When I was your age, I made mistakes too. Big ones. I said things I shouldn't have said. I judged people I shouldn't have judged. This seemed impossible to Tommy. Michael Jordan was perfect. A champion. A hero. I did, Michael continued, seeing Tommy's doubt. I was cut from my high school basketball team because the coach thought I wasn't good enough. You know what I did? Tommy shook his head. I talked trash about that coach to anyone who would listen. I said he was stupid, that he didn't know talent when he saw it. I was angry and hurt, so I tried to make him look bad. Tommy couldn't imagine Michael Jordan not making a team, or talking badly about a coach. Later I realized something. That coach wasn't my enemy. He was trying to teach me that I had to earn everything I got. That nobody owed me anything just because I thought I was special. Michael sat back down in his chair. Tommy's heart jumped with hope. The difference between a mistake and a pattern is what you do next, Tommy. Do you learn from it, or do you keep making the same mistake over and over? I want to learn, Tommy said quickly. I promise, I want to learn. Then tell me what you learned tonight. Tommy thought carefully. This felt like the most important test of his life. I learned that you can't judge people by how they look. That everyone deserves respect, no matter what they're wearing or how much money they have. Michael nodded. What else? I learned that when you're feeling bad about yourself, it's wrong to take it out on other people. That doesn't make you feel better, it just makes you a bully. Good, what else? Tommy dug deeper, thinking about everything that had happened. I learned that you never know who someone really is. That the person you're judging might be someone amazing, someone who could teach you something or help you grow. And Tommy looked at Michael, really looked at him. Not at his clothes or his shoes, but at his face, at the kindness in his eyes, at the patience he was showing even after being hurt. I learned that true greatness isn't about being famous or rich or having expensive things. It's about how you treat other people, especially when they don't deserve it. Michael smiled for the first time since Tommy's cruel comment. It was a small smile, but it was real. That's a good start, Tommy. A start? Learning something and living it are two different things. The real test is what you do tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Tommy nodded eagerly. I understand. I promise, Mr. Jordan, I'll be better. Don't promise me, Michael said gently. Promise yourself. And more importantly, promise the next person you meet who looks different from you, or dresses differently, or seems out of place. Tommy felt the weight of that responsibility settle on his shoulders. It was heavy, but it felt right. I will. I promise I will. Michael reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. He wrote something on the back and handed it to Tommy. This is my personal assistant's number. I want you to call her next month. Tommy stared at the card, confused. Why? Because I think you learned something important tonight, and I think you're going to keep learning. People who are willing to look honestly at their mistakes and grow from them, those are the people I like to invest in. Invest in? Michael stood up again, but this time he didn't seem like he was running away. He seemed like someone who had finished what he came to do. Call the number, Tommy. Let's see what kind of person you become. Tommy looked down at the business card in his trembling hands. When he looked up, Michael was walking toward the exit. Mr. Jordan, wait. Michael turned back one more time. Your shoes, Tommy said. They're not cheap at all, are they? Michael's smile grew wider. What do you think, Tommy? Tommy thought about everything he'd learned. About judging by appearances. About looking deeper than the surface. I think they're probably the most valuable shoes in this restaurant, but even if they weren't, it wouldn't have mattered. Because you're valuable, and that makes everything about you valuable. Michael nodded approvingly. Now you're getting it. He walked out of Milano's, leaving Tommy standing there with a business card that might change his life, and a lesson that definitely would. Tommy stared at the card in his hands. It was simple and white, with Jordan Enterprises printed in elegant black letters. On the back, Michael had written a phone number and 3 words, call me. The restaurant around Tommy slowly came back to life. Conversations resumed. Silverware clinked against plates. But everything felt different now, like Tommy was seeing it all through new eyes. Mr. Peterson rushed over, his face red with worry and excitement. What did he say? Is he angry? Is he going to sue us? Is he going to post bad reviews online? Tommy looked at his manager and realized something strange. Mr. Peterson was scared too. Just like Tommy had been scared when he made his cruel comment. Fear made people do and say things they normally would. He's not angry, Mr. Peterson. He was kind. Kind? After what you said to him? Tommy nodded, still amazed by it himself. He taught me something important. About respect. About giving people second chances. Mr. Peterson's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank God. I thought Milano's reputation was ruined. Mr. Peterson, can I ask you something? What? Tommy looked around the elegant dining room, at all the wealthy customers in their expensive clothes. Do you think we treat all our customers the same? Rich or poor? Famous or unknown? Mr. Peterson looked confused by the question. Of course we do, we're professionals. But Tommy wasn't sure that was true anymore. He thought about how nervous Mr. Peterson had been about Michael Jordan specifically. How different his attitude was toward a celebrity versus a regular person. What if someone came in wearing old clothes and cheap shoes? Would you seat them at the best table? Mr. Peterson's hesitation was answer enough. Tommy walked back to the kitchen, his mind spinning with new thoughts. The other waiters gathered around him immediately. What was he like? Asked Sarah, a waitress who'd been at Milano's for 2 years. Was he mad about what you said? James wanted to know. Did he leave a bad tip? Asked Marcus, another server. Tommy looked at Michael's table. The $20 bill still sat there next to the cold pasta. He left $8 for a $12 meal, Tommy lied. He pocketed the business card and picked up the 20. And he was exactly who you'd want him to be. The other waiters looked disappointed, like they'd wanted drama or gossip. But Tommy kept Michael's kindness to himself. It felt too precious to share. For the rest of his shift, Tommy moved through Milano's like a different person. When he served the wealthy couple at table 15, he didn't feel intimidated by their expensive jewelry. When he brought coffee to the businessman at table 3, he didn't assume the man was more important than Tommy's other customers. At table 9, an elderly woman sat alone. Her dress was neat but old. Her purse was worn at the edges. She ordered the cheapest item on the menu and asked for water instead of wine. The old Tommy might have rushed through her service, focusing on customers who would leave bigger tips. But now Tommy sat down in the empty chair across from her. "Are you celebrating something special tonight, ma'am?" She looked surprised that he'd asked. "It's my wedding anniversary, 52 years today." "That's wonderful. Where is your husband?" Her smile grew sad. "He passed away last month, but we came here every year on our anniversary. I couldn't break the tradition." Tommy's heart ached for her. "What was his name?" "Robert." "Bobby to his friends. He would have loved talking to you. He always said young people working hard reminded him of himself." Tommy thought about his own family, his parents working double shifts, his little brother Marcus practicing basketball every day after school, his sister Elena saving birthday money for college supplies. "Ma'am, would it be all right if I brought you our special anniversary dessert?" On the house, her eyes filled with tears. "You don't have to do that." "I'd like to, in honor of Bobby." Tommy went to the kitchen and asked the pastry chef to prepare Milano's most beautiful chocolate cake. When he brought it to the table, the woman was wiping her eyes with her napkin. "Bobby would have said you have a good heart," she whispered. After his shift ended, Tommy walked home through the streets of Chicago. The business card felt warm in his pocket. He kept taking it out to make sure it was real. At home, his family was asleep. Tommy sat at the kitchen table under the dim light and stared at the card. "Call me MJ." What could Michael Jordan possibly want with him? Tommy thought about the evening, about his cruel comment, about Michael's grace and forgiveness, about the lesson he'd learned. But mostly, he thought about what Michael had said. "The real test is what you do tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that." Tommy pulled out a piece of paper and started writing. "Dear Marcus, I learned something important today about treating people with respect, no matter what they look like or how much money they have. I know I haven't always been the best example for you, but I want to be better. When you're playing basketball with your friends, remember that everyone deserves kindness. When you see someone who looks different or seems out of place, be the person who makes them feel welcome. Michael Jordan taught me that true champions aren't just good at sports or business, they're good at being human. I love you, and I'm proud to be your big brother. Tommy." He left the note on Marcus's pillow, then went to his own room. Under his bed sat the jar with $237, his college fund. It seemed so small now, so impossible, but Tommy had something more valuable than money now. He had a lesson that could change how he saw the world. He had a business card from a legend who believed in second chances. Most importantly, he had a choice to make every single day. Would he be the person who judged others or the person who lifted them up? Tommy looked at the business card one more time before putting it safely in his wallet. Tomorrow, he would start becoming the person Michael Jordan thought he could be. But tonight, he fell asleep thinking about an elderly woman eating anniversary cake alone, and how one small act of kindness had made her smile through her tears. That, Tommy realized, was what real success looked like. 3 weeks passed before Tommy found the courage to call the number on Michael Jordan's business card. 3 weeks of replaying that night over and over in his mind. 3 weeks of treating every customer at Milano's with genuine respect, no matter what they wore or how they looked. 3 weeks of wondering what Michael Jordan could possibly want with him. Tommy waited until his day off to make the call. He sat in the small park near his apartment, watching kids play basketball on the cracked concrete court. The same court where he'd taught his little brother Marcus how to shoot free throws. His hands shook as he dialed the number. Jordan Enterprises. This is Lisa speaking. Hi, my name is Tommy Rodriguez. Michael Jordan told me to call this number. There was a pause. Tommy Rodriguez from Milano's restaurant? Tommy's heart jumped. She knew who he was. Yes, ma'am. That's me. Mr. Jordan has been expecting your call. Can you meet him tomorrow at 2 o'clock? He'll be at the community center on South Street. The community center? That was in Tommy's neighborhood. Why would Michael Jordan be there? Yes, ma'am. I'll be there. Ask for Coach Williams when you arrive. He'll know where to find Mr. Jordan. The call ended, leaving Tommy more confused than ever. Coach Williams? What was going on? The next day, Tommy arrived at the South Street Community Center 15 minutes early. He'd changed clothes 3 times that morning, finally settling on his best jeans and a clean white t-shirt. The community center was old but well maintained. Kids ran in and out of the building, heading to after-school programs. Tommy could hear basketballs bouncing from the gym inside. At the front desk, a friendly woman with gray hair smiled at him. "I'm looking for Coach Williams," Tommy said. "I'm supposed to meet Michael Jordan." Her eyes lit up. "Oh, you're Tommy. Coach Williams is in the gym. Just follow that hallway and go through the double doors." Tommy walked down the hall, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. The sound of bouncing basketballs got louder as he approached the gym doors. He pushed through the doors and stopped in amazement. Michael Jordan stood in the middle of a basketball court, surrounded by about 20 kids who looked to be around 12 years old. He was wearing shorts, a Bulls t-shirt, and the same scuffed sneakers Tommy had laughed at 3 weeks ago. But now Tommy understood. These weren't old shoes that Michael wore to fancy restaurants by mistake. These were his coaching shoes, his teaching shoes, his working with kids shoes. "Tommy," a voice called from the side of the court. A short, muscular man with a whistle around his neck jogged over. "I'm Coach Williams. We've been waiting for you." "I don't understand," Tommy said, watching Michael demonstrate a layup for the excited kids. "Why am I here?" Coach Williams smiled. "Because 3 weeks ago, one of my players told Michael all about his big brother who works at Milano's, a big brother who works double shifts to help his family and still finds time to teach basketball to kids in the neighborhood." Tommy's blood went cold. "Which player?" "Marcus Rodriguez, great kid. Reminds me a lot of Michael when he was that age." Marcus. Tommy's little brother Marcus had talked to Michael Jordan about him. "Marcus is here?" Tommy looked around the court and spotted his brother near the free throw line, practicing shots with the other kids. Marcus hadn't seen Tommy yet. "He's here 3 days a week," Coach Williams explained. "Part of our youth development program. Michael sponsors it personally." Tommy felt dizzy. Michael sponsors this program. Has for 5 years. He comes here twice a month to work with the kids, teaches them basketball, but more importantly teaches them about character, hard work, and treating people right. Tommy watched Michael high-five a kid who'd just made his first successful layup. The pure joy on both their faces was beautiful to see. "Coach Williams, why did Marcus tell Michael about me?" The coach's expression grew more serious. "Because Michael asks the kids about their families. He wants to know who their role models are, who's working hard to make their lives better." Tommy's throat felt tight. "And Marcus said I was his role model. Said you're the strongest person he knows. Said you work 2 jobs and still come home to help him with homework and practice basketball. Said you turned down a community college scholarship because you wanted to work and help your parents instead." The words hit Tommy like a physical blow. Marcus had been bragging about him to Michael Jordan. Tommy. Michael's voice came from behind him. Tommy turned to see the basketball legend approaching with a warm smile. I'm glad you came. Mr. Jordan, I don't understand what's happening. Walk with me. They moved to the side of the court where they could talk privately. The kids continued their practice, but Tommy noticed several of them kept glancing over at Michael with obvious adoration. Tommy, I didn't come to Milano's that night by accident. The words hit Tommy like lightning. What do you mean? I mean, I came there specifically to meet you. Marcus had told me so much about his big brother that I wanted to see what kind of person you were. Tommy's world tilted sideways. You planned to meet me? Michael nodded. I was planning to offer you something, a full scholarship to Northwestern University, plus an internship with my company, a chance to get the education you gave up to help your family. Tommy's legs nearly gave out. A full scholarship. To Northwestern, one of the best business schools in the country. But when you made that comment about my shoes, Michael's voice grew quiet. I wondered if I'd misjudged you. The crushing weight of what Tommy had almost lost hit him all at once. Michael Jordan had come to Milano's to give him the opportunity of a lifetime, and Tommy had nearly destroyed it by being cruel. I'm so sorry, Tommy whispered. I had no idea. I know you didn't. That's partly why I was disappointed. I thought the young man Marcus described would see a person first, not a pair of shoes. Tommy looked across the court at his little brother, who was finally starting to notice him. Marcus waved excitedly and pointed him out to his teammates. Marcus thinks I'm better than I am, Tommy said sadly. Maybe, or maybe you're better than you think you are. Michael's voice was gentle but firm. That night at Milano's you made a mistake, but then you owned it. You apologized sincerely. You learned from it. That told me more about your character than Marcus's stories ever could. Tommy looked up, confused. What do you mean? I mean, anyone can be good when it's easy, Tommy. The real test of character is what you do when you mess up. Do you make excuses, or do you take responsibility and grow? Michael smiled. You took responsibility and grew. That's why I still want to offer you that scholarship. The words didn't seem real. After everything that had happened, Michael was still willing to help him. I don't deserve it, Tommy said. Nobody deserves anything, Tommy. But some people are worth investing in. You're worth investing in. Across the court, Marcus finally broke away from his teammates and ran over. Tommy, what are you doing here? Did you know Michael Jordan sponsors our program? Did you know he's been helping kids in our neighborhood for years? Tommy looked at his little brother's shining face, then at Michael's patient smile. Yeah, Marcus, I'm starting to learn there's a lot I didn't know about Mr. Jordan. Marcus grinned and grabbed Tommy's arm. Come on, you have to see this. Michael's teaching us his secret moves. But Michael held up his hand gently. Marcus, your brother and I need to finish talking first. Why don't you show the other kids that crossover dribble I taught you last week? Okay. But Tommy, don't leave without watching me play, all right? I won't, little brother. I promise. Marcus ran back to the court, and Tommy watched him go. His chest felt tight with emotion. This whole time, Marcus had been telling Michael Jordan stories about him, building him up as some kind of hero. If only Marcus knew how Tommy had acted that night at Milano's. He really looks up to you, Michael said quietly. He shouldn't. Not after what I did. Michael studied Tommy's face. Tommy, can I ask you something important? Yes, sir. If I give you this scholarship, this chance to change your life, what will you do with it? The question felt enormous. Tommy thought carefully before answering. I'd study as hard as I could. I'd learn everything about business that I can. And someday, I'd use what I learned to help other families like mine. That's a good answer. But it's not what I'm really asking. Tommy looked confused. What are you asking? Michael pointed across the gym, where Marcus was showing another kid how to dribble properly. The other boy was smaller, maybe 10 years old, and his shoes were even more worn than Tommy's had been. I'm asking what kind of man you'll become, Tommy, because education is just a tool. What matters is who's holding the tool. Tommy watched his brother patiently encourage the younger boy. Marcus could have shown off, could have made the kid feel bad about being slower to learn. Instead, he celebrated every small improvement. I want to become someone Marcus can actually be proud of, Tommy said honestly. Someone who deserves the faith you're showing in me. Michael nodded approvingly. Better answer, but I'm still not sure you understand what I'm really offering you. A scholarship to Northwestern, an internship with your company. That's just the beginning, Tommy. What I'm really offering you is a chance to join something bigger. Michael gestured around the community center. This program, working with kids like Marcus, helping families in neighborhoods that get forgotten. This is what success really looks like. Not the trophies or the money or the fame. Tommy began to understand. You want me to help with the program? I want you to help change lives. The way someone once changed mine. Michael's voice grew distant, like he was remembering something from long ago. When I was Marcus's age, there was a man in my neighborhood who believed in me. He didn't have much money, but he had time. He taught me that basketball was just a game, but character was for life. Tommy listened intently. He died before he could see me make it to the NBA. But everything I accomplished because he took time to invest in one kid who needed direction. Michael looked directly at Tommy. Now I invest in kids like Marcus, and sometimes I invest in their big brothers too. The weight of what Michael was offering finally hit Tommy. This wasn't just about school or a job. This was about becoming part of a legacy of helping others. Mr. Jordan, after what I said to you that night, why are you still willing to do this? Because that night showed me who you really are, Tommy. Not the scared kid who made a cruel comment, but the young man who took responsibility for his mistake. Michael smiled. Besides, Marcus wasn't wrong about you. You worked double shifts to help your family. You gave up your own dreams so your parents could keep their house. You spend your free time teaching kids basketball in the park. Tommy's eyes widened. How do you know about the park? Because I asked around. Because when you're thinking about investing in someone, you do your homework. Michael had been watching him, learning about him, just like he'd learned about all the kids in this program. There's one condition, Michael said seriously. Tommy's heart skipped. What is it? You have to promise me something. Promise me that no matter how successful you become, no matter how much money you make or how important people think you are, you'll remember what you learned that night at Milano's. I'll remember. I promise. And you have to promise me that someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, you will. Even if they don't deserve it. Especially if they don't deserve it. Tommy thought about the lonely woman at Milano's, eating anniversary cake by herself. About the small act of kindness that had made her smile through her tears. I promise, Mr. Jordan, I'll help others the way you're helping me. Michael reached into his bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Then let's make it official. Tommy's hands shook as he opened the envelope. Inside were documents from Northwestern University, a full scholarship application already approved, an internship contract with Jordan Enterprises, a letter of recommendation from Michael himself. This is really happening, Tommy whispered. It's really happening. But Tommy, remember what I said about this being a test? Tommy looked up from the papers. Yes, sir. The real test isn't whether you can handle success. The real test is whether success changes who you are at heart. Tommy nodded solemnly. He understood the responsibility he was accepting. Mr. Jordan, can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you do all this? The community center, helping kids, giving scholarships to people like me. You could just enjoy being rich and famous. Michael looked across the gym at all the kids practicing, laughing, learning. His expression grew soft. Because someone once did it for me, Tommy. And because these kids remind me that everything I achieved was really just the beginning, not the end. Michael stood up to rejoin the practice. The goal was never just to be great at basketball. The goal was to use basketball to become great at being human. Tommy watched his little brother make a perfect shot and pump his fist in celebration. Marcus looked over and waved at Tommy, his face beaming with joy. "Tommy," Michael said as he walked toward the court, "there's one more thing you should know." "What's that, Mr. Jordan?" Michael smiled. That same warm smile Tommy remembered from their first meeting at Milano's. "Marcus was right about you. You are a hero. You just needed to learn what real heroism looks like." Tommy felt tears building in his eyes. He looked down at the scholarship papers in his hands, then back at Michael. "I don't feel like a hero. I feel like someone who almost threw away the most important opportunity of his life because I was too scared and insecure to see past someone's shoes. And that's exactly why you are one," Michael said gently. "Real heroes aren't people who never make mistakes, Tommy. They're people who learn from their mistakes and use them to become better." Across the gym, Coach Williams blew his whistle. "All right, everyone. Let's scrimmage. Marcus, your team captain today." Tommy watched his little brother's face light up with pride as he picked his teammates. Marcus chose the smallest kid first, the 10-year-old with the worn-out shoes who'd been struggling with his dribbling. "That's your brother's influence," Michael observed, following Tommy's gaze. "Marcus learned that from watching you help him when he was struggling to make shots." "But I'm not patient like that all the time," Tommy protested. "You saw how I acted at Milano's. I saw how you acted in one moment when you were scared and feeling small. But I also saw how you acted afterward, with honesty, with genuine remorse, and with a commitment to do better." Michael sat down on the bleachers, motioning for Tommy to join him. "Tommy, let me tell you something about that night at Milano's that you don't know." Tommy sat down, clutching the scholarship papers. "I wasn't just testing your character when I gave you that business card. I was testing my own." "What do you mean?" Michael looked out at the kids playing basketball, his expression thoughtful. "For 3 weeks after Marcus first told me about you, I wrestled with whether to help you or not. Part of me thought, this kid gave up college to help his family. He deserves a chance. But another part of me wondered if I was being too soft, too quick to hand out opportunities." Tommy listened intently. "When you made that comment about my shoes, my first instinct was to walk away, to write you off as just another person who judges by appearances. But then something interesting happened." "What?" "You apologized. Not because you knew who I was, but because you realized you'd been cruel to another human being. That told me everything I needed to know about who you really are inside." Michael turned to look directly at Tommy. "The question wasn't whether you deserved help, Tommy. The question was whether you had the character to handle it responsibly. That night, you proved you did." Tommy felt overwhelmed by the generosity of it all. "Mr. Jordan, what if I fail? What if I take this opportunity and mess it up somehow? Then you'll learn from that mistake too, and you'll try again. That's what people with real character do." Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out another envelope smaller than the first. "There's something else, Tommy. Something I haven't told you yet." Tommy's heart raced. What more could there possibly be? "Open it." Inside the envelope was a key and an address written on a piece of paper. "What is this?" "It's an apartment near Northwestern's campus, fully paid for all 4 years of your studies." Tommy's mouth fell open. "Mr. Jordan, I can't accept all this. It's too much." "It's not too much, Tommy. It's an investment. In you, in your family, in all the people you're going to help someday." Michael stood up and walked closer to the basketball game. Tommy followed, still stunned. But there's one more condition, Michael said with a slight smile. Tommy's stomach fluttered with nervousness. What is it? Every month I want you to write me a letter. Tell me what you're learning, not just in school, but about life. Tell me about the people you meet, the challenges you face, the ways you're growing. That's it? Just letters? Just letters. Because I want to watch you become the man Marcus already thinks you are. Tommy looked across the gym at his little brother, who was high-fiving teammates and encouraging everyone to keep trying their best. Marcus caught his eye and waved excitedly. Mr. Jordan, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why shoes? I mean, why do you still wear those old sneakers to coach in? You could afford any shoes in the world. Michael looked down at his worn sneakers and chuckled. These shoes have walked through a lot of gyms, Tommy. They've been on courts where kids learn to believe in themselves. They've been in community centers where young people discovered they were capable of more than they ever imagined. He paused, watching a shy girl make her first successful free throw. I could wear brand new shoes every day, but these shoes remind me where I came from and why I do what I do. They remind me that value isn't about what something costs. It's about what something means. Tommy felt a deep understanding wash over him. That's why you weren't angry when I commented on them. I was hurt, Michael corrected gently, because I thought you were someone who would understand that already. But I wasn't angry, because I realized you were someone who could learn it. The scrimmage was winding down. Coach Williams gathered all the kids in a circle, with Michael and Tommy joining them. Before we finish today, Michael announced to the group, I want to introduce you all to someone special. This is Tommy, Marcus's big brother. The kids looked at Tommy with curious, friendly faces. Marcus beamed with pride. Tommy just got accepted to Northwestern University on a full scholarship. Michael continued. He's going to study business so he can help families in neighborhoods like ours. The kids erupted in cheers and applause. Tommy felt his face burn with embarrassment and pride. But more importantly, Michael said, looking directly at Tommy, Tommy learned something recently about treating people with respect and kindness, no matter what they look like or where they come from. And he's promised to teach those lessons to others. Tommy nodded, feeling the weight of that promise settle on his shoulders. Sometimes, Michael told the kids, the most important lessons we learn come from our biggest mistakes. Tommy made a mistake, owned up to it, and grew from it. That's what real champions. As the kids dispersed and parents arrived for pickup, Tommy found himself alone with Michael and Marcus for a moment. Tommy, Marcus said excitedly, did you know Mr. Jordan has been asking about you for weeks? He kept saying he wanted to meet the big brother who taught me that basketball is about teamwork, not just scoring points. Tommy's throat tightened. Even without knowing it, Marcus had been preparing the way for this moment. Marcus, you know I'm proud of you, right? Tommy said. I know, and I'm proud of you too. You're going to college. Michael watched the brothers with a satisfied smile. Tommy, I'll see you next week to go over the details. But for now, just enjoy this moment. As they prepared to leave, Tommy turned back to Michael one more time. Mr. Jordan, how do I ever thank you for this? Michael's answer was simple, by becoming someone worth believing in. And someday, by believing in someone else the same way. 1 month later, Tommy sat in his first Northwestern University business class, surrounded by students whose families could afford the tuition without scholarships. But he no longer felt intimidated by their expensive clothes or confident voices. He knew now that what mattered wasn't what people wore, but who they chose to be. That afternoon, Tommy returned to Milano's for his shift. He'd kept his job even though he didn't need the money anymore. Michael's scholarship covered everything. But Tommy wanted to keep working, to stay connected to the place where his life had changed. Table 12 wants to see you, James told him as soon as he arrived. Tommy's heart jumped. Table 12 was Michael's usual spot. But when he looked over, he saw an elderly man sitting alone reading a newspaper. Tommy approached the table with a smile. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Milano's." The man looked up, and Tommy recognized him immediately. It was James, not James the waiter, but James Patterson, the head waiter who'd worked at Milano's for 15 years. Wait, that wasn't right. This man was much older, maybe 70. He wore a simple brown suit that had seen better days. His hands were weathered, like someone who'd worked hard his whole life. "You must be Tommy," the man said with a gentle smile. "Michael told me I might find you here." "I'm sorry, sir, but I think there's been some confusion. Do I know you?" The man chuckled softly. "Not yet. But I know you. My name is James Patterson. I worked here a long time ago." Tommy's confusion deepened. "James Patterson. But James works here now. He's our head waiter. Different James' son. I worked here 30 years ago. Before your James was even born." Tommy felt a strange tingling sensation, like something important was about to happen. "Michael Jordan asked me to come talk to you," the elderly James continued. "He said you might be interested in hearing a story about a young man and his mother who came to dinner here many years ago." Tommy's breath caught in his throat. He remembered Michael's story about coming to Milano's as a teenager with his mother. "Would you mind sitting down, Tommy? This might take a few minutes." Tommy looked around the restaurant. It was early in the dinner service and his other tables were fine. He pulled out a chair and sat across from the elderly man. 30 years ago, James began. "I was working here as a waiter. I was about your age, actually, trying to save money for my own dream." Tommy listened intently. One evening, a young woman came in with her teenage son. They were dressed nicely, but I could tell they'd saved for a long time to afford this dinner. The boy looked uncomfortable, like he didn't think he belonged in such a fancy place. Tommy's heart started beating faster. They ordered carefully, choosing the less expensive items. But they were so proud to be there, so happy to share this special moment together. James paused, his eyes growing distant with memory. When it came time to pay, the woman's credit card was declined. I'll never forget the look of embarrassment on her face, or the way her son tried to comfort her. "What did you do?" Tommy whispered. "I told my manager there had been a computer error. I said the payment had gone through fine. Then I paid for their dinner myself with my tip money from that week." Tommy felt tears building in his eyes. "But that's not the end of the story," James continued. "That young man came back to see me a few weeks later. He brought me a handwritten thank you note from his mother. He said what I'd done had meant more to his family than I could possibly understand." Tommy could barely speak. "What was his name?" James smiled. "Michael Jordan. And last month he tracked me down to tell me something incredible." The elderly man reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "Michael told me that every scholarship he's ever given, every kid he's ever helped, every act of kindness he's shown, it all started with what happened that night, 30 years ago. He said I taught him that one person's kindness can change everything." Tommy stared at the envelope in James's weathered hands. "What's in there?" "A check for $500,000. Michael's way of paying back a $20 dinner with 30 years of interest." Tommy's world spun. $500,000? "But he asked me not to keep it," James continued with a smile. "He asked me to do something else with it." Tommy waited, afraid to breathe. "He wants me to start a scholarship fund. For kids like you, kids like he was, kids who work hard and help their families but need someone to believe in them." James handed Tommy the envelope. "And he wants you to help me run it." Tommy's hands shook as he opened the envelope. Inside was indeed a check for $500,000 made out to the James Patterson Scholarship Foundation. "I don't understand," Tommy said. "Why me?" "Because Michael said you learned the same lesson I learned 30 years ago. That kindness creates ripples that spread farther than we can imagine. That one moment of choosing to help someone can change not just their life, but the lives of everyone they touch afterward. Tommy looked around Milano's dining room, seeing it with completely new eyes. This wasn't just a restaurant. It was the place where a chain of kindness had begun 30 years ago, with James's simple act of paying for a struggling family's dinner. That kindness had shaped Michael Jordan into someone who helped others. Michael's help had changed Tommy's life. And now Tommy was being asked to continue the chain. "James," Tommy said slowly, "there's something I need to tell you about my first meeting with Michael Jordan." "What's that, son?" Tommy took a deep breath. "I almost broke the chain. I almost ruined everything by being cruel and judgmental." James listened as Tommy told the whole story. The comment about Michael's shoes, the hurt he'd caused, the lesson he'd learned. When Tommy finished, James was quiet for a long moment. "You know what that tells me, Tommy? That I'm not worthy of this responsibility." James shook his head. "It tells me you're exactly the right person for it, because you know what it feels like to make a mistake and be forgiven. You know what it means to be given a second chance." The elderly man stood up, leaving the envelope on the table. "The kids were going to help. They won't all be perfect. They'll make mistakes, just like you did, just like I did, just like Michael did. But if we can see past their mistakes to their potential, we can change their lives." Tommy looked at the check again, then at James's kind, weathered face. "What do I need to do?" "Just what Michael asked you to do when he left here that first night. Become someone worth believing in, and then believe in others the same way." As James prepared to leave, Tommy had one more question. "Sir, what happened to you after that night with Michael and his mother? Did your own dreams come true?" James smiled. "Son, I thought my dream was to save enough money to open my own restaurant. But it turned out my real dream was something much better." "What was that?" "To be the kind of person who helps dreams come true for others. Tonight, 30 years later, I finally achieved that dream." Tommy watched the elderly man walk out of Milano's, understanding finally that the story wasn't really about Michael Jordan at all. It was about how one act of kindness, multiplied over time, could change the world. 2 years later, Tommy stood at a podium in the ballroom of Chicago's Palmer House Hotel. The room was filled with over 300 people, businessmen in expensive suits, community leaders, families from neighborhoods all across the city, and dozens of teenagers wearing their best clothes. Tonight was the second annual James Patterson Scholarship Foundation Gala. Tommy, now a junior at Northwestern University, served as the foundation's student director. 2 years ago, Tommy began, his voice steady and confident. "I learned the most important lesson of my life. I learned it in the most embarrassing way possible, by making a terrible mistake." The audience listened intently. Many of them had heard this story before, but they never tired of it. "I was working as a waiter at Milano's restaurant when I met a customer whose appearance I judged unfairly. I made a cruel comment about his old, worn-out shoes." Tommy paused, looking out at the audience. In the front row sat Michael Jordan, wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo and a proud smile. Next to him sat James Patterson, now 72 years old, beaming with joy. That customer was Michael Jordan, and those cheap shoes I laughed at. They were the shoes he wore when he won his 6th NBA championship. A ripple of laughter went through the audience. But the real value of those shoes wasn't their price or their history. Their real value was in what they represented: a man who had never forgotten where he came from, who chose to wear old shoes while working with kids in community centers, who understood that true worth has nothing to do with appearance. Tommy's voice grew stronger as he continued. "That night, I almost destroyed a chain of kindness that had been growing for 30 years. It started when a young waiter named James Patterson chose to help a struggling mother and her teenage son, paying for their dinner out of his own pocket when their credit card was declined. He gestured toward James Patterson in the front row. That teenager was Michael Jordan, and James's kindness shaped Michael into someone who has spent his entire career lifting others up. The audience applauded warmly. James Patterson wiped tears from his eyes. When Michael met me, he was planning to offer me a scholarship and an opportunity to change my life. But first, he tested my character, and I failed that test spectacularly. Tommy's voice grew quiet, more reflective. But here's what I learned about true champions. They don't give up on people who fail. They give them a chance to learn from their failures and grow. Tommy looked directly at Michael Jordan. Michael could have walked away that night. He could have decided I wasn't worth the risk. Instead, he chose to invest in my potential rather than judge my mistake. The room was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Tonight, we're here to celebrate the 47 students who received James Patterson scholarships this year. 47 young people from neighborhoods across Chicago who work hard, help their families, and dream of college. Tommy gestured toward a group of teenagers sitting at tables near the stage. Their faces glowed with pride and excitement. But I want to tell you about one student in particular, Maria Santos. Come up here, please. A shy 17-year-old girl walked slowly toward the stage. She wore a simple blue dress that was clearly her best outfit. Her shoes were old but polished to a shine. Maria works 20 hours a week at a grocery store while maintaining a 4.20 GPA. Tommy explained as Maria joined him at the podium. She sends half her paycheck home to help her single mother pay rent. She wants to become a doctor so she can serve her community. Tommy smiled at Maria. But when Maria first came to our scholarship interview 3 months ago, she almost didn't make it inside the building. Maria nodded, her nervousness showing. Tell them what happened, Maria. The girl leaned toward the microphone, her voice barely above a whisper. I was standing outside, looking at all the important-looking people going in. I felt like I didn't belong. My dress was from a thrift store. My shoes had holes in them. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. I was about to leave when Mr. Rodriguez came outside. Instead of rushing past me, he stopped and asked if I needed help. Tommy picked up the story. I saw a young woman who looked exactly like I had felt that night at Milano's, out of place and scared. But instead of judging her appearance, I remembered what Michael Jordan taught me about seeing the person, not the packaging. Mr. Rodriguez sat with me on the steps. Maria continued. He told me about his own scholarship, about making mistakes and learning from them. He helped me find the courage to go inside. The audience was completely captivated now. Maria will start at Northwestern University next fall, Tommy announced. She's going to study pre-med, and I know she'll become an amazing doctor. The applause was thunderous. Maria smiled widely, no longer shy. But here's the most important part of Maria's story, Tommy said as the applause died down. Last week she came to me with an idea. She wants to start a program where scholarship recipients visit high schools in their neighborhoods to encourage other students to apply for college. Tommy felt his chest swell with pride. Maria understands what this is really about. It's not just about getting help, it's about passing that help along to others. As Maria returned to her seat, Tommy looked out at the audience one more time. James Patterson paid for one family's dinner 30 years ago. That act of kindness created Michael Jordan's philosophy of giving back. Michael's generosity changed my life and taught me to see people's worth beyond their appearance. My story inspired Maria to want to help other students. Tommy paused, letting the weight of this cascade sink in. One act of kindness, multiplied across 30 years, has now touched thousands of lives, and it's still growing. He gestured toward all the scholarship recipients in the audience. Each of these students will go on to help others. Their children will learn about kindness from their example. The chain will continue indefinitely. Tommy's voice grew emotional as he reached his conclusion. I almost broke this chain with one cruel comment about a pair of shoes. But I learned something that night that I want to share with all of you. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after we make them. He looked directly at the scholarship recipients. Some of you will make mistakes in college. You might fail a test, or say something unkind, or doubt your own worth. When that happens, remember this moment. Remember that you are part of something bigger than yourselves. Tommy smiled at Michael Jordan and James Patterson. Remember that one act of kindness can change not just one life, but countless lives across generations. And remember that you have the power to keep this chain of kindness growing forever. The audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Tommy stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed by the moment. As the applause continued, Michael Jordan stood up and walked toward the stage. The crowd quieted, wondering what he would say. Michael took the microphone and looked out at the audience. 30 years ago, a young waiter showed kindness to my mother and me when we needed it most. 2 years ago, a young waiter learned from his mistakes and chose to grow rather than hide. Michael smiled at both James Patterson and Tommy. Tonight, I want to announce that Jordan Enterprises is donating $5 million to the James Patterson Scholarship Foundation. The audience erupted in shocked applause. Tommy's jaw dropped. James Patterson stood up, tears streaming down his face. But more importantly, Michael continued when the noise died down. I want to announce that Tommy Rodriguez has agreed to run this foundation full-time after he graduates next year. Tommy felt his knees go weak. This was news to him. Michael looked directly at him. Tommy, you've learned what it means to transform a moment of failure into a lifetime of service. You're ready to carry this forward. As the evening ended and people began to leave, Tommy found himself standing with Michael and James in the hotel lobby. I can't believe this is all real, Tommy said. 2 years ago, I was just a kid who insulted Michael Jordan. Now I'm going to run a foundation that changes lives. James Patterson put his hand on Tommy's shoulder. Son, you were never just a kid who insulted someone. You were always someone with the potential to do great things. You just needed to discover it. Michael nodded. That night at Milano's wasn't about the mistake, Tommy. It was about what the mistake revealed about your character. Not the cruel comment, but everything that came after. Tommy looked at these two men who had shaped his life so profoundly. How do I ever live up to this responsibility? The same way James did 30 years ago, Michael replied. The same way I've tried to do ever since. The same way you'll teach Maria and all the other students to do. How's that? Michael smiled, that same warm smile Tommy remembered from their first meeting. One act of kindness at a time. 5 years after that night at Milano's, Tommy Rodriguez walked through the doors of his old workplace, wearing a business suit and carrying a briefcase. But he wasn't there for a meeting or a fancy dinner. He was there to keep a promise. The restaurant looked exactly the same, crystal glasses catching the light, white tablecloths perfectly pressed, the gentle hum of expensive conversations. But Tommy felt completely different walking through it. Tommy, Maria Santos waved from table 12, Michael's old spot. She was now in her 3rd year of medical school, and she'd driven down from Northwestern to join Tommy for this special occasion. At the table sat 3 other people, Marcus, now 18 and heading to DePaul University on a basketball scholarship he'd earned through hard work and determination. Elena, Tommy's sister, who had just graduated high school as valedictorian, and a nervous-looking 16-year-old boy Tommy had never met before. Tommy, this is David Chen, Maria said as Tommy approached. Bobby's little brother. Tommy's heart jumped. Bobby Chen, Mrs. Chen's grandson, the boy who'd been Michael Jordan's biggest fan all those years ago. Mrs. Chen asked me to bring David here tonight. Maria continued. She said you'd understand why. Tommy looked at David, seeing himself from 5 years ago. The boy wore clothes that were clearly his best, but still looked out of place in Milano's elegant atmosphere. His shoes were clean but worn, held together with careful stitching. More importantly, Tommy could see the same look in David's eyes that he remembered from his own reflection, the look of someone who felt like he didn't belong. "David," Tommy said gently, sitting down at the table, "your grandmother told me a lot about you. She said you work at her flower shop after school and help translate for customers who don't speak English well." David nodded shyly. "Yes, sir. My grandmother says you're successful now, that you run a big foundation." "I do. But that's not why we're here tonight." Tommy gestured to James, the head waiter, the younger James, who was now in his 30s and managed the evening staff. "James, could you bring us some bread, please? And make sure we get your best service tonight." James smiled. He'd known Tommy since the beginning and understood the significance of this moment. "Of course, Mr. Rodriguez." Right away. As James walked away, Tommy turned back to David. "Do you know why we're meeting here tonight?" "Not really, sir. Maria said you had something important to tell me, but she wouldn't say what." Tommy looked around the table at Marcus, Elena, and Maria, all three of them young people whose lives had been changed by education and opportunity. "David, 5 years ago I was working here as a waiter. I was your age, scared about my future, worried my family would never have enough money for me to go to college." David listened intently. "One night, a customer came in who looked ordinary to me. His clothes were simple, his shoes were old and scuffed. I made a terrible mistake. I judged him by his appearance and said something cruel." Tommy's voice grew quiet with remembered shame. "That customer was Michael Jordan, and my comment about his cheap shoes almost cost me the opportunity of a lifetime." David's eyes widened. "Michael Jordan ate here." "He did. And he taught me the most important lesson of my life. Never judge people by what they wear or how much money they have. Everyone deserves respect and kindness." Marcus leaned forward. "Tell him about the scholarship, Tommy." Tommy smiled at his brother. "Michael Jordan had come here that night specifically to offer me a full scholarship to college. He'd heard about me from Marcus, who was in his youth basketball program. Because of one night when you were rude to him?" David asked, confused. "No, David. Despite one night when I was rude to him. That's the point of the story." Tommy opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder with David's name on it. "Your grandmother told me that you want to study engineering, that you dream of designing bridges and buildings that will help your community." David nodded eagerly. "I love math and science. I want to build things that last." "She also told me that you turned down a partial scholarship to community college because you wanted to work full-time to help your family." David's face fell slightly. "We need the money, sir. My parents work really hard, but I understand, David. I made the same choice when I was your age." Tommy slid the folder across the table. "Open it." With trembling hands, David opened the folder. Inside were acceptance letters from 3 different universities, all offering full scholarships through the James Patterson Scholarship Foundation. "I don't understand," David whispered. "How is this possible?" "Because 5 years ago, Michael Jordan taught me that one person's kindness can change everything." James Patterson, an elderly waiter, once paid for Michael's family dinner when they couldn't afford it. That kindness shaped Michael into someone who helps others. Michael helped me, and now I help students like you. David stared at the papers, tears forming in his eyes. "But there's one condition," Tommy said with a smile. David looked up nervously. "Someday, when you're a successful engineer designing beautiful buildings, you have to help someone else. Someone who reminds you of yourself at 16, scared, hardworking, and dreaming of something bigger." "I promise," David said, his voice thick with emotion. I promise I will. Maria reached across the table and squeezed David's hand. That's what we all promised, David. And we're all keeping that promise in different ways. Elena nodded. I'm going to become a teacher so I can help kids from neighborhoods like ours believe in their own potential, Marcus added. And I'm going to use basketball to teach kids about teamwork and character, just like Michael Jordan taught me. And Maria, Tommy said with pride, is going to become a doctor who provides healthcare in underserved communities. As they talked, Tommy noticed something happening around them. Other customers in the restaurant were glancing over at their table, drawn by the obvious emotion and excitement of the conversation. An elderly couple at table 8 smiled warmly as they watched David wipe tears of joy from his eyes. A businessman at the bar put down his phone to listen more closely to their conversation. You know what I realized tonight? Tommy said to the group. This restaurant has seen so many important moments. Business deals, first dates, family celebrations. But some of the most important moments happen when people's lives change forever. He looked around Milano's with new appreciation. 5 years ago, I thought this place was about fancy food and rich people, but it's really about human connection. It's about the moments when one person's kindness changes another person's entire future. James returned with fresh bread and water for everyone. As he set down the glasses, he paused. Mr. Rodriguez, if you don't mind me saying, this is the best thing I've ever seen happen in this restaurant. Tommy smiled. James, do you know the story of the other James who used to work here? The elderly gentleman who comes to the galas? I know he helped Michael Jordan's family many years ago. That's right, and his one act of kindness created a chain that's still growing today. Tommy stood up and raised his water glass. I'd like to make a toast. Everyone at the table raised their glasses. To James Patterson, who showed us that paying for one family's dinner can change the world. To Michael Jordan, who taught us that true champions lift others up. To Mrs. Chen, who raised a grandson so wonderful that he inspired kindness in others. Tommy's voice grew stronger. And to David, who will someday inspire the next link in this chain of kindness. They clinked their glasses together, and the sound seemed to ring through the entire restaurant. As the evening wound down and they prepared to leave, David pulled Tommy aside. Mr. Rodriguez, can I ask you something? Of course. That night, when you insulted Michael Jordan, do you wish it had never happened? Tommy thought about the question carefully. It was something he'd wondered about many times over the years. You know what, David? I used to wish that. I used to think about how different things would have been if I'd just kept my mouth shut that night. But not anymore. Tommy smiled, looking around Milano's one more time. Not anymore, because that mistake taught me something I never would have learned otherwise. It taught me that we're all capable of being cruel when we're scared or insecure, but more importantly, it taught me that we can learn from our cruelty and choose to be kind instead. Tommy put his hand on David's shoulder. If I hadn't made that mistake, I might have taken Michael's kindness for granted. I might not have understood how precious it is when someone sees your potential instead of your flaws. So you're glad it happened. I'm glad I learned from it. I'm glad it made me into someone who can recognize the David Chens of the world and help them achieve their dreams. As they walked out of Milano's together, Tommy realized something profound. The laughter he'd heard that night 5 years ago, his own cruel laughter at Michael Jordan's shoes, had been transformed into something beautiful. Tonight, the restaurant had been filled with different laughter. The laughter of joy, of dreams coming true, of young people discovering their potential. The last laugh, Tommy understood now, wasn't about winning or losing, being right or wrong. The last laugh was the sound of happiness multiplied across generations. It was the sound of kindness winning over cruelty, hope conquering fear, and second chances creating infinite possibilities. As Tommy walked into the Chicago evening with his brother, sister, and the next generation of dreamers, he knew that somewhere, somehow, this chain of kindness would continue forever. One act of kindness at a time, one person at a time, one dream at a time. The last laugh belonged to everyone. So there you have it, the incredible true story of how one waiter's cruel laugh at Michael Jordan's cheap shoes almost broke a 30-year chain of kindness, but instead became the beginning of something beautiful. Tommy's worst moment taught him that real success isn't about what you wear or what you own. It's about how you treat others and the kindness you pass along. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the power of second chances, please hit that like button to help us spread more stories of kindness and hope. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us share more incredible stories that can change how we see the world and treat each other. And speaking of amazing stories, there's another incredible video appearing on your screen right now that you won't want to miss. Click on it to continue this journey of inspiration with us. Until next time, remember, one act of kindness at a time can truly change the world.